Okay, so I'm a little late to the game here, but you know what they say, better late than never, right? No? Okay, whatever. So, over the past few days, I've been watching a bunch of videos, reading a lot of articles about the Windows 11 leak, and I've also had the opportunity to play around with it for myself a bit. You know your boy gets excited every time a new version of Windows comes out, but in all honesty, I gotta say, there's really nothing too exciting about this particular build, other than the fact that it's supposedly a new version of Windows that wasn't even supposed to be in the public eye yet. And what's also intriguing here is the fact that Windows appears to be jumping to a whole new number, which, at least according to what we thought we were being told around the time Windows 10 was being rolled out, was never supposed to happen. So the general understanding of Microsoft's wording back then was that Windows 10 was going to be the last version of Windows, which would eventually become just Windows, an operating system in the form of a service that receives incremental updates without necessarily putting too much emphasis on the version branding or the numbers that follow the name. Now, this is actually the most interesting thing to me in this whole situation, because if this truly is a legit build of Windows 11, that would mean that back then we got the whole last version of Windows thing all wrong, and it's most likely because of sensationalism and our insatiable thirst for clickbaity titles. And I take no satisfaction in saying this because I would be guilty too, but regardless, if we really did bamboozle ourselves, then, let's be fair and call it for what it is. If I remember correctly, the whole Windows 10 is the last version of Windows conclusion was based on this statement by a guy from Microsoft called Jerry Nixon. Quote, "Right now, we're releasing Windows 10, and because Windows 10 is the last version of Windows, we're all still working on Windows 10. End quote. Okay, so not the best linguistic skills in the world, but it is what it is. At the time, Microsoft was also very vocal about wanting to treat Windows like an ongoing service. So hearing that alongside a statement which included the phrase last version of Windows, people jumped to the conclusion that 10 was probably going to be the last number we would ever see appearing in a Windows logo. Now, there was actually another interpretation of Nixon's statement. Some people assume that he mistakenly used the word last instead of latest, which, in the context of the situation at Microsoft back then, would have also made a lot of sense. However, to a lot of journalists and video creators such as myself, Windows 10 will be the last version of Windows sounded like a far better title than something like, Microsoft mobilizes all its developers for the latest version of Windows or whatever. Fast forward to today, and about that. Look, we may have been wrong all along. I mean, YouTubers and journalists getting shit wrong, right? Like, when did that ever happen? But who knows, maybe they bamboozled us. Maybe they were intentionally vague and confusing in the way they spoke, knowing that we would take the bait. In hindsight, letting people believe Windows 10 was going to be the last version of Windows probably didn't do too bad of a job in promoting the OS, and maybe they knew it. I don't know. As far as the leaked build goes, don't install it as your main OS. In fact, I believe Microsoft already pulled some programming trickery from up their sleeve and made it impossible for people to install it on bare metal. In terms of functionality, it seems to be working like a version of Windows 10 with a different skin on top of it. There's a nice new startup sound. The boys over at LTT even managed to play some games on it with pretty good performance. Visually, the taskbar is different. The icons are now centered like on macOS. The start menu appears to be completely redesigned. It's also centered, and if you ask me, it's much worse than the one on Windows 10. The windows now have rounded corners, and the icons have been completely redesigned. Now, not too shabby if I may say so myself, but then again, that's just personal preference. There's a new widget button which you can use if you sign in. You also get a bunch of snapping presets for Windows, so I guess that's cool. Middle mouse click capabilities have been limited in some instances, which sucks, but then again, this is not even a beta, so it's very possible that in the final version, if such a thing ever even sees the light of day, a lot of these things will be very different. Again, nothing too exciting here, but it will be interesting to see how this will all wrap up in the end. June 24th is coming up, so we'll probably find out soon.